This is a discussion on economic survey 2015-16. For the sake of convenience, this whole discussion has been divided into different parts. So this is part 1 of economic survey. I will start with the first chapter of economic survey. Generally, the first chapter talks about the overview of the economy, and that is also called state of the economy. Now, in the very beginning, the economic survey talks about the various favorable and challenging circumstances that the economy faced during this year. Now, as far as the situation during the year, the first thing the survey says is that declining prices of a number of commodities, right? Declining prices of a number of commodities, and most specifically the crude oil prices, that has effect on the economy, number one. Number two, the turbulent financial markets across the world. And because of these developments, the third significant feature during the year was the volatile exchange rates. So now these three things were very visible around the globe, and that affected the Indian economy also. Despite various challenges that the Indian economy faced, there were some positive developments during the year. The most positive was the strength of the economy, growth rate, and that continued to be robust, and it was 7% plus. Last year also it was 7% plus. So that is significant, and more significant considering the slowdown in rest of the globe. Now, despite all these challenges, the positives are that the macroeconomic parameters of the economy, that we can see distinct signs of improvement in all of them. And you know what is macroeconomic? Parameters. There are three parameters. One is called inflation. Two is current account balance. And three is fiscal deficit. So all the three parameters showed signs of improvement. As far as inflation is concerned, the WPI based inflation was negative throughout the year. Even the CPI based inflation, it was well within the control, and it was less than 5%, right? I will give you exact data later on. But yes, there were certain negatives also. And the most negative thing that happened during the year was India's exports. Throughout the year, the export growth was negative. But it could be balanced by the imports, which was also negative. Import growth was also negative. So ultimately, as far as the overall impact on the economy, the impact was within the limits, and the trade balance as well as the current account balance could be managed very well, and it was quite moderate, and there was no negative effect on the economy as far as the external sector is concerned. Another negative was agriculture sector. There is less than normal rain for the 2 consecutive years, and definitely because of these conditions, the agriculture sector was down performer for 2 years consecutively, 2014-15 and 2015-16. Later on, I will give you more specific data about the growth rates of agriculture. Now, the third thing that is really worrying for the economy is the issue of saving and investment. There is hardly no sign of improvement. And that is really worrying for the economy as far as long term is concerned, because for the longer term, the improvement in saving and investment is one essential condition. Now, fourth negative that the economy faced during the year, it was depreciation of rupee with the dollar, US dollar. But most of the world economies, they depreciated against dollar. So in that sense, it was not very bad for India, but yes, depreciation was definitely one negative factor during the year. So these are the things, positive as well as negative, and the challenges that the economy faced. Now, these things can be utilized not only for PT, but also for the mains exam, because questions may be asked about the overall scenario in the economy. Now, as far as some of the statistics is concerned regarding national income, etc. So, in 2015-16, the GDP at constant prices, and constant prices, 2011-12 is the base year, 2011-12 prices, it was reported to be rupees 113 lakh 50,962 crore rupees. That is the total GDP. And the growth rate registered during the year was 7.6% as compared to previous year. Now, as far as the per capita income is concerned, there is per capita income. So, per capita GDP at constant prices, it was rupees 88,472, and at current prices it was rupees 1,05,746. But if we calculate it as on the basis of national income or NNI, the per capita net national income at constant prices, it was rupees 77,431, and at current prices it was rupees 92,231. Now I have given both the data GDP and NNI, and you can see from this that the GDP data is more than that of the NNI or net national income. Now what conclusion you can withdraw from here? It reflects that there is net outflow when you convert the domestic product into national product, we are required to add net factor income from abroad. But now if the GDP figure is more and NNP figure is less, it means the net inflow is negative. It means inflow is less and outflow is more. So maybe the question in PT is not about the data itself, but it is an applied question. So from this data we can generate a statement that the net inflow was negative, or you can say that it was a net outflow, right? It was a net outflow. So that is one issue. Now another issue is about the importance of Indian economy in the global growth, right? Importance of Indian economy in global growth. Now the economic survey reports that on PPP basis, purchasing power parity basis, the contribution of India has increased. Contribution of India to global growth has increased over past few years. Now, as far as the data is concerned, during 2001 to 7, the contribution of India on an average was 8.3%. So out of the total global growth, 8.3% was coming from India. Now that increased to 14.4% during 2014. Now that is a significant improvement, and from this data you can say, what you can conclude is that now the world is more dependent on India for its growth, right? So the importance of India for global growth has increased over these 7-8 years. Now another very important information is that earlier the US was the driver of global growth, and it was contributing about 16% of global growth. But after 2013, it has come down, and now India contributes more than US, right? India contributes more than the US in global growth, and our share in global growth is more than US by 2.2% and 2.7% in the past 2 years. So you can say that US economy is quite big as compared to India, but as far as the contribution to global growth is concerned, contribution of India today is more than that of US. Now, if we see the share of India, where India stands in the global GDP or world GDP, so in world GDP, the share, India's share, that was only 4.8% during 2001 to 7, means before the crisis period. During 2008 to 13, means in the post-crisis period, it has increased to 6.1%, and 2014 to 15, means last couple of years, this has increased further to 7%. And obviously all these things are on PPP terms, not on nominal terms, right? Because when now we compare the global GDP, global contributions, global growth, etc., the experts are generally using the PPP value and not the nominal value. So we can say that in PPP terms, the contribution of India to global growth, to global GDP has increased during the post-reform period, post-crisis period. So that was global comparison. Now then comes the another issue, and that is growth in major sectors. Now we can compare the 2 years, last year 2014-15 and this year 2015-16. The 15-16 data is only estimate, it is not the final data. But as far as the report from Economic Survey, agriculture and allied sector, its growth rate was minus 0.2% last year, but this year it is expected to be better at 1.1%. Now, as far as industry is concerned, industry 5.9% last year and 7.3% this year. So some improvement in industrial sector also. But within the industry, the manufacturing, that is the most important part of industry. The positive thing is that manufacturing has performed very well. It increased from 5.5 to 9.5, and that you can say is the silver lining. Now, as far as the services sector is concerned, its share has declined from 10.3%, growth rate has declined from 10.3% to 9.2%. And the overall, that we say, GDP at constant market prices. Earlier we used to measure it at constant factor cost, now it is constant market prices. The growth rate has improved from 7.2% to 7.6%. So both the years the growth rate has been 7% plus. So this is the performance sector wise. Now another issue that is important for the economy is the introduction of a new concept that was introduced last year, that was called GVA, gross value added. Now if we analyze the two, we have some very important trends. Now one is share in output, means total output, and another is figure is share in GVA, gross value added. Now, in case of agriculture, the values are 10.5 and 17.5. In case of industry, it is 53.9 and 31.8. And in case of services, it is 35.6 and 50.7. Total obviously is 100 in both the cases. Now, this data is very important to understand how these sectors are related with each other. For example, if you see the agriculture sector, its contribution in total output is 10.5, but in GVA its contribution is higher. Same is true for services sector. The contribution in output is less, but the GVA is more. But it is just opposite in case of industrial sector here. The share in output is more, but share in GVA is less. Now, the conclusion of this is that the manufacturing sector, right? So, this conclusion you may note down. The manufacturing sector provides the demand base. Manufacturing sector provides the demand base for the products of other sectors. We can also call it backward linkage. So, the industrial sector has substantial backward linkage. It means that it is procuring lot of input from agriculture and services, and then the value addition is less and the total value of output is more. So, we can say that the growth of the manufacturing sector or industrial sector may promote growth in the agriculture and services sector. So, out of the three, if we have to say growth of which sector is very important now for the Indian economy, the answer will be manufacturing sector, or you can say industrial sector, because the data shows that if the industrial sector grows faster, it will definitely increase demand for agriculture sector and the services sector. But as far as the contribution as of now is concerned, you know, services sector is definitely the most significant sector. And as far as the growth of the economy during 2011-12 to 2015-16 is concerned, the economic survey reports that the contribution of services sector in this growth has been 69%. So, 69% of growth is coming from services, and because of this, the share of services sector in GDP is obviously increasing, or the role of services sector in the economy is increasing. Now, another issue is the contribution of public sector in gross value added, GVA. Now, in gross output its value is less, but in GVA its value is more. And in 2011-12 and 2014-15, if we compare, the share of public sector or contribution of public sector, it was 20.6% here, and it is slightly less at 19.4%. So we can say that 1/5 of India's GVA or gross value added is coming from public sector. Now, as far as private corporate sector is concerned, its contribution is 33.6% and 35.9%. Its contribution has increased. And household sector, that is the largest sector, it is 45.5 and 44.8%. So you can focus on 14-15 data. So 1/5 is the contribution of public sector, more than 1/3 is the contribution of private corporate sector, and 45% around is the contribution of private corporate sector. Now, the economic survey also talks about the new concept, that is GVA at basic prices. Though it was discussed in much detail in last year's economic survey when it was introduced, but again they have tried to give some information about the new concept. So I'm repeating that. So GVA at basic prices is equal to CE plus OS upon MI plus CFC plus taxes net of subsidies on production. Now, this is a possible question in PT, that is why I am repeating it. Now, what is CE? CE is compensation to employees. Compensation to employees. OS is operating surplus. MI is mixed income. Of the self-employed. This is called mixed income because in a company you can easily differentiate what part of the income is going to the entrepreneur as profit, what part of the income is going to the employees as compensation or salary. But if a person is self-employed, the entrepreneur and employee is same, the same person is performing both the functions. So there you can't differentiate between profit and compensation to employees. So that is why it is called mixed income, and it is always related with self-employed. And CFC here, that is called consumption of fixed capital, right? Consumption of fixed capital. Now, the next issue is the savings and investment. So, first I will talk about savings and then investment. So, it is gross savings as percentage of GDP, and the figure is for 2014-15. Gross saving means total that is 33% of GDP. And in fact, in the earlier years, like 2011-12, 2012-13, it was about 34% or above. So we can say that the gross saving in the country has declined, and that is alarming. As far as the classification or division of this gross saving, the public sector contribution in this 33% is just 1.2%. The private corporate, means private companies, their contribution is 12.7%. That is significant, and in fact, it has increased over these years. And then the household sector has contributed 19.1%. And if we compare the household saving over the years, it has come down. Now these numbers, they tell a lot about what is happening in the economy. But that can be understood better if we compare this data with that of the investment. So if I give you the investment data for the same year, so I'm writing it here, investment data. So the gross investment is 30.8%, 30.8. Public sector contribution is 7.5%. Private corporate is 12.3%, and the household is 11.0%. Now if you compare the data, what you get is the public sector means the government is saving less and investing more. So it means the government is the net borrower in the economy. The private corporate sector, it is saving less and investing, saving more and investing less, 12.7% and 12.3%. Now that is one major concern for the economy. Generally, private sector saves, but it also borrows from the banking system. So the general trend in any economy is that if it is moving forward and things are positive, then the corporate saving is always less and corporate investment is always more. Here in this year, the corporate saving is more and corporate investment is less. It means the corporates are not borrowing heavily from the banking system, and whatever surplus they have, they are postponing the investment decisions, waiting for the better environment, and they are sitting on the cash. So there is a lot of investable fund available with the corporate sector, but they are not taking the investment decisions. And maybe it is lack of infrastructure, maybe it is because of lack of global slowdown, maybe some other reason. But as far as the trend is concerned, I said that this trend is very alarming for the economy. And it also means that the retained profit of companies, retained profit means that was not distributed as dividend. So it also means that retained profits of companies have improved. It has come down, but the investments, they have not improved, and it means that they are having the surplus money with them and still waiting for the appropriate time to invest that money, right? So this was part one. This was part one of the discussion. Our next topic I will take in part two. Thank you.